and in England considered probably one of the great 18th century hymn writers with over probably 400 things of his hymns published. And again, don't get confused, those are hymn texts, not necessarily, they didn't necessarily write the music to it, but the texts themselves. And most of that came because he was a pastor, and his, I guess his habit was to end every sermon with a hymn. And so he would write one to conclude whatever he was teaching. And this is one of them, if you look at it. And I have to say it was kind of a weird way it came about, because I was reading in the book of Judges. This is not one of my favorite books of the Bible, because everybody just did what's in their own heart. But at the same time, when Delilah said to Samson, after trying to trick him, I think the second time, and Samson kind of, fools her, and she says, "How can you say I love you when your heart is not with me?" These are her words, right? "You've mocked me these 3 times, and you haven't told me where your strength lies." Well, just the phrase, "How can you tell me I love you?" When I read that, my heart goes to, how can I tell God I love him? And am I telling him that clearly? There are verses sometimes that I go to try to make myself feel better when it comes to how much I love God. One of them is in 1 John. Actually, both of them are. "If anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need and yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him?" So I have to continually look at, what am I doing with my stuff? What am I doing with the things that I have that I could share? Another one is 1 John 4. "If anyone says I love God and hates his brother, he's a liar." Well, I feel good. I don't hate my brother, so I must love God, right? "For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen can't love God whom he has not seen. And this commandment we have from him, whoever loves God must also love his brother." Well, I've got a biological brother, and I have all of you brothers and sisters. But I think when we stop looking at our own hearts, or when we simply try to define our love for God by what we do for other people, or how we feel about other people, as opposed to how we feel about God, about how our love for God is expressed, and whether or not there are competitions for that love within my own heart. That's where this goes. That's where this text goes. Look at it. Because he asked the question, "Do not I love thee, O my Lord? Behold my heart and see." How many times do you ask God, "Look at my heart, Lord, and see if I love you"? It's a scary question, because the Spirit is not unwilling to divulge. In fact, that's where he goes with the rest of this. "Turn each cursed idol out that dares to rival you." And then he goes on, "Do not I love thee from my soul? Then let me nothing love." That's pretty incredible. If I don't love you from my soul, then don't let me love anything else, right? "Dead be my heart to every joy when Jesus cannot move." Are the things that I do, the things I think about, the things that I choose to do, are those the things that Jesus can freely move about in? The conversations I have, is Jesus going to freely be a part of that conversation in the way I'm talking? Things I would choose to watch on television, the things that I would choose to read, the things, all that kind of stuff, right? Goes on. "Within the darkness of this heart, other gods would vie for my affections. But you are exalted. You are exalted far above all gods." And we know that's to be true in heaven, because the worship continually goes on. And then the response is, "Let nothing keep me from thy love." Right? "Thou knowest I love thee." And this is kind of where it turns, all right? And he says, as much as he can share with God how much he loves him, he says, "You know I love you, dearest Lord, but oh, how I long to soar far from the sphere of mortal joys and learn to love thee." more, right? Because we cannot understand how to love God, I don't think, as fully as we will when we're in his presence. When we finally see him for what he truly is, and finally see what he has been in us, right? Because the scripture tells us we will be like him. When we see him as he is, we will be like him. I think what we really, for me, what that's always meant is, I'm going to see how much of Christ has been in me. I'm going to really notice him. I'm going to see that. But I also recognize that this doesn't end when I enter heaven. Because the angels in heaven he created, and they've been around him for however long that is, right? I'm not sure when he actually created all those angels, but they've been around a long time. And yet there's still things about him they don't know. There's still things about his plan they didn't know until they actually watched it, right? And if Jesus himself defined eternal life, not by, hey, you get to drive whatever car you ever wanted to drive and live in the nicest home you ever wanted to live in and be near the ocean or be in the mountains or wherever it's not that, right? This is eternal life, that they would know you, the only true God. They would know you and Jesus Christ. That's what you do for eternity. Eternity is this constant revelation of things, and God is infinitely wise and infinite in every capacity. So if you're trying to understand infinite, it's going to be an infinite process, right? But it's going to be a great process, because it's not like taking a test and going, oh darn, I missed that. Because every time something is revealed to you that you did miss, it's a matter of glory. It's a matter of, wow. It's a matter of, and that's the God that's called me and saved me and washed me and forgave me and reconciled me and brought me into his family and gave me this family and all those things that God does for us. So I shared that with you simply because my heart continually is challenged. How do I love God, and do I love him the way he wants to be loved? And too often I try to define it by some of those verses and just say, well, you got to love your brother, or you got to share your goods, or you got to do that kind of stuff. Rather than just that sense of devotion of soul, devotion of heart, devotion of mind. And to me, this is one of those anthems that just pulls at every corner of that for me. So why don't we try and sing this tonight and just kind of get a sense of how this moves. It's a little bit challenging. So you ask the question now, ready?
See
Good, have a seat.